Hello everybody, welcome to Crafty Soup. My name is Misty. Today I have for you a little bit of a product review, which is on this pretty paper pad right here. And full disclosure, I did receive this paper pad for free from an Amazon seller, and I will link their shop right here and in the show description down below so that you can check them out if you like this paper. We're going to switch to overhead view. We're going to dive into this little packet. I'll tell you the things I like about this paper pad, as well as the one thing I wasn't quite happy with, and then we'll share a bit of a project. Now I have a couple of ideas on that project, so let's see what I end up doing. All right, here is the paper pad. It is called Dreamlike, and the shop does offer several varieties. There's some marble patterns, some kind of galaxy star prints, as well as some vintage vibes and a few other things. This one is, like I said, it's called Dreamlike, so let's go ahead and check it out. Now, the one thing to note that you'll notice as we dive into this package, and yes, I did take a peek already, is that this paper is single-sided. Also, we'll go ahead and talk about the fact that it says heavyweight cardstock on here, and I would not put those two words together. This is definitely a heavyweight paper, but it is not a heavyweight cardstock. So I would either call it cardstock, and that would be pushing it, or I would call it heavyweight paper. And you can see that it is heavier than a printer paper, but definitely not as heavy as kind of a standard cardstock. So that was my only dislike about this paper. What I loved about this paper, as we shuffle through here, was the gorgeous color. And it's very beautiful, and in some cases quite vibrant. It has this gold veining in here, which is printed. It's not a foil or anything like that, but I think they've captured some of the lovely detail in the gold to make it feel like it's shimmery and shiny. And you'll notice that I'm flipping through this. It is not a bound paper pad, which will have glue at a top edge. And the reason I like this is that sometimes those glued paper pads will either tear your paper when you're trying to remove it from a paper pad, or it'll leave a lip of glue on your paper when it comes out of the pad. So having an unbound pack like this is kind of a nice touch. Now that we've had a look at the paper, let's go ahead and make a project. The project that I settled on here was this paper home decor mobile piece, and the reason I decided to do this was simply because I just wanted to keep looking at the paper. It is so pretty. So the process for making this mobile is pretty straightforward. It does take a little bit of time, so know that. I am sorting through the paper pack, and I am just going to pick out the patterns that catch my attention the most. I actually like the pieces that have a lot of changing detail to them, because when you cut them out into circles, you want to capture that contrast between the changing areas of the print. What's nice about 6x6 paper pads is that they fit nicely on a regular paper crafting die cut machine, and it makes this process a little bit faster. I am just going to choose 4 sizes of circles from my nesting circle die, and once I get this set up correctly, I'm going to run this through my die cutting machine, and notice that there are some empty spaces there, and I will, for the most part, fill in those spaces and die cut them with additional circles as we go along. Once I have all of my papers cut out with lots and lots of different circles, I'm going to lay them all out here to see what I've got. Don't throw away these scraps. You can use these scraps with smaller punches like hearts and stars and butterflies, and create a whole bunch of embellishments for future projects. Then the creative part of this project is to arrange all of these circles into a nice mobile. And what I'm doing here is offsetting the largest circles first, and making sure that none of them are side by side. We've got a nice random pattern of circles between the strings. I am using 5 strings for this mobile, so odd numbers are very pleasing to the eye. I'm going to stick with that. And the big circles can also tuck in next to the smaller circles on the adjacent string, so that is another reason to offset your big circles. You can get a tighter mobile and more pattern and color into a smaller space doing it this way. Just like I offset the circles, I'm also trying to offset the colors and patterns here too, so that no 2 patterns are too close together. I want to spread out that beauty across the whole thing. Okay, once I've finished fussing with all these patterns, now it's time to assemble everything. I am just going to use thread to do this. You can use whatever kind of string type product you want, twine, fiber, yarn, whatever it is you have on hand. I'm going to go ahead and use a gold thread from my sewing supplies because that adds just a tiny hint of extra gold. Now the thread is so thin that you won't end up seeing it a lot, which could have its benefits too if you don't want to see the physical mechanism holding this mobile together. I just line up my circle on a mat so that I can kind of center the circle, put a line of glue down that center of the circle, stretch the thread and make sure it kind of unwinds at the end, because when you take thread off of a spool it tends to curl up and you don't want that with your mobile because it'll cause it to flip and twist, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. So I stretch that string straight as I can and lay it down into that glue. And if you're having a little bit of trouble getting the string to kind of stay in place as you move on to the next circle, you can put a little piece of tape on here. Now, I am going to put this mobile up against a wall, which means you won't ever see this back side of the mobile. However, if you would like to hang yours more free-flowing, and you will get some of that twisting action going on with your mobile, I would cut double the circles and glue circles onto the back sides of these, and that will encase your string and you won't have to worry about any of these steps that I'm mentioning here. When that first string is done, I will lift it up and give you a peek, pardon my camera bump, as you can see the twisting and flowing action of these strings. If you do leave them free flowing, then adding that second layer of paper to the back would really make the best visual impact. But like I said, I'm hanging mine against a flat wall, so I don't need to use more paper to create this project. I do leave plenty of string at the end in order to assemble my project, and I will repeat that for all the other rows, and then we'll be right back. I've got all of my assembled mobile rows ready to go. You can hang them on a dowel. If you don't have a dowel, perhaps you could cut extra pattern paper and glue it into a strip to attach your strings to at the top, and that would become the bar of the mobile. If you're going to do that, I would really recommend reinforcing your paper with a couple of layers of heavy cardstock in order to hold all the weight. However, I am going to use a stick that I cut from my yard, and this is another great option. I'm not doing anything fancy here. I am just tying a double knot with my thread up here at the top of my stick, and because I don't hold on to it or anything, that knot will end up being loose enough that if I need to slide it along the stick a little bit to kind of space out my layers, that will work fine. And then I need a string to hang the whole mobile on my wall, and I'm going to do that with a heavier weight string. Now, of course, you could use this for the dangles of the mobile, but I liked the thinnerness of the thread for that part. And here is my dangly mobile, and I'm going to go hang it on the wall. At first, I think I'm going to hang it on this section of my wall, but this section of my wall is bare basement wall because, as many of you probably know, I do work in an unfinished basement. And so having more decoration up in my space makes me happy, and I love it. And if you want to check out some paper and make your own mobile, I will leave you all the links below. So that is it for this time. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, I would appreciate a thumbs up. And I will be back in just a day or two with more videos, so I hope you'll join me then. So until then, have an artful day.